Hi everyone, this is Dragon GGY. Welcome to another series of Operator Hindsight, and in this video we will talk about Ray. Ray is a 6-star hunter in the sniper class. Trait of the archetype: attack consume ammo to increase attack to 120%, while not attacking, ammo will slowly be reloaded. Maximum ammo is 4 at E0, 6 at E1, and 8 at E2. This is a very new archetype that is like 4 months old, so in case you are not familiar with them, let's dive deep into Hunter. So first of all, they have this ammo mechanism, which is not the same as all the ammo-based skills. It's a built-in mechanism exclusive to this archetype. The current ammo count is displayed at the lower right corner of character model, and they will deploy with full ammo. Next, the reload behavior. Hunter attacks when there are remaining ammo and there are targets in range. Pay attention to the conditions, and they will reload when there's no remaining ammo or when there's no target in range. Reload takes up an attack event, just like how Mystic cards store an attack, and the time to reload by default equals the base attack interval of Hunters, which is 1.6 seconds, but it is not affected by any changes in attack speed, meaning that they will always reload at 1.6 seconds per bullet speed unless specified otherwise. Therefore, when constantly picking up enemies where they will eventually run out of backup ammo, they will enter a cycle of shoot, reload, shoot, which makes the effective attack interval double from 1.6 seconds to 3.2 seconds. And this is where a lot of people come to become skeptical about this archetype. And I've got to be honest, it is very pressure-inducing to see hunters attack in this way. As a trade-off to this trait, Hunter gets a 120% attack scale that is always active. However, at the same time, it also implies that the archetype is not good at constantly picking up enemies, very much like Mystic Caster. So, like Mystic Caster, their effectiveness is very dependent on stage and enemy composition. You likely want them to deal with elites that are tougher and worthy of your ammo. In other words, to use them well, you need map knowledge. Finally, their interaction with attack speed would best be described as insensitive. They are still affected by attack speed, obviously. It's just that the fixed reload time will water down the benefit from attack speed buffs, while attack speed debuffs will still take away a lot of her damage due to her skill being short duration. So overall, in terms of attack speed, the ammo mechanism is mostly an L for Hunter, unfortunately. Next, let's go over the talents. Talent 1 can summon a sand beast within attack range that lasts for 25 seconds and can serve as an extension of her attack range. Ray will prioritize attacking enemies within sand beast range and increase the physical damage dealt towards them by 15%. The range for the sand beast is a 3x3 grid as shown here. Sand Beast has a redeployment time of 30 seconds, can be deployed on both ranged and melee tiles like Scouter's Seaborn, and costs 3 DP. This talent really is what makes Ray unique. Damage wise, it was much the damage multipliers calculated after defense, but for mechanics, first of all, the Sand Beast serves as an extension to her range. The diagram here shows the possible hit zone with Sand Beast, and yes, she would be able to hit one column behind her, which has actual applications. Second, it gives her active target prioritization, which is crucial for Hunter and Ray as a single target damage dealer. Talent 2, when attacking the same target, each attack increases its own attack by 8%, 9% and potential 5, stacking up to 3 times. This talent is calculated before the attack hits, so if Ray switch targets, the attack increase resets before damage calculation. The good news is, at least one stack is always active, so full stack is effective on the third attack on the same target. This talent further encourages hunting down a single target by kind of giving you a penalty when you switch target. Fortunately, it's manageable with Talent 1, which is went over. This is a simple but effective attack modifier, and you can realize that without involving any skills, Ray's trait plus her 2 talents already bundle up 3 different multipliers, which marks the base of her damage capability. With all this, Ray's auto attack can deal 2103 DPH, which is one of the highest in the game. As a rather new archetype, Ray only gets a module recently in CN, and by schedule, it should be in about 5 months for global. Trait update: when reloading with no ammo left, reload 1 additional ammo. For upgrades to Talon 1, the damage scale is increased from 15% to 20%, and it cuts down the base redeployment time of Sandbeast by 10 seconds. So let's look into the base effect first, which is a little bit complicated. Best thing about it is that it optimizes Hunter's cycle when they are out of ammo. So before module, like we just said, the cycle is reload, shoot, which is one attack every 3.2 seconds, so effective interval is 3.2 seconds. After module, however, the cycle becomes reload, shoot, and shoot, so 2 attacks every 4.8 seconds for an effective interval of 2.4 seconds. However, the thing with Ray to this module is, it's pretty good with skill 1 and skill 2, especially skill 2, but we tend to mostly pick Ray for skill 3. For skill 3, this module brings very marginal gain. This is a table documenting how many attacks Ray will be able to make in skill 3 when she activates it with different ammo left. And as you can see, she's only able to attack once more when she activates the skill with exactly 7 bullets left. For its defense, you can say that she's now able to attack once right before the skill to gain 1 stack of Talent 2 and still get 10 attacks off with skill 3. But other than that, no changes. It does get slightly more significant with attack speed buff, which we will discuss later. For upgrades, Sandbeast now redeploys at 20 seconds, so it matches up perfectly with skill 3 cycle if she defeats an enemy during skill. It also gets cut down to just 12 seconds after skill 2 warm-up, which makes it a lot more flexible. And it's now more resilient against redeployment time debuffs. However, if you want stats for damage improvement, there's merely 10%, which is definitely below average for 6-star modules. So this is mostly a QOL module that improves the experience using Ray, and it's good for using Ray in daily content with some extra room for error, filling in for the lack of map knowledge. But on the flip side, if you are already familiar with the map, for example IS runs, most of the time you already have established timings that works just fine with 30-second Sandbeast redeployment, especially when you use her against bosses. If Ray doesn't take them out in one skill, then 30-second downtime is just fine. Overall recommended for daily Ray users. For players that use her mostly in IS or just from time to time, the whole module is pretty optional. It's all on you. For skills, recommendation is skill 3 mastery 3 over skill 2 mastery 3 over skill 1 mastery 3. Skill 3 is the signature skill for Ray, destructive enough for almost everything while having a shorter cycle that helps you forget how painful it is to see her run out of ammo with skill down. Skill 2 is like an advanced skill that may prove too much for average players and most likely not as straightforward and effective as skill 3. Skill 1 has the highest burst damage, can shift enemies, but still niche and not as practical. Skill 1 immediately attacks with extra special ammo, which means that the skill cast does not consume base ammo count and can be used even without ammo, dealing 450% of attack as physical damage and knocks the enemy back significantly. If they are defeated, obtains 2 additional ammo on the next reload. This is a 10/10 auto recovery manual skill with 2 charges at max. Looking at the stats, that's some pretty big numbers for a single hit damage. Let's break down the skill in 2 parts. 1. The push part. This applies to most push forces in the game with some minor differences here and there, but I will focus on Ray here. So there are 2 types of push forces in the game. One is directional push. This is triggered when the target is within 45 degrees of Ray's facing direction and is at least 0.25 tiles away from her. This is marked by the green area within the diagram here. Directional push means that the enemy will be pushed in the same direction where Ray is facing. This can feel a little counterintuitive, especially when the angle is marginal, but yes, with this force, enemies will not be pushed in a diagonal direction. There's also radial push. Well, that one is definitely intended. This is when enemy is beyond 45 degrees of Ray's facing direction or when they are less than 0.25 tiles away from her, marked by the red area. In this situation, the push will be in the direction extending from Ray herself towards the point where the shot connects. When this happens, however, Ray will receive a force -1 penalty, so it becomes a moderate force. For the other tidbits of the skill, if Ray defeats an enemy with the skill, the next reload will give her 2 more ammo on top of what she's supposed to reload. If she pushes an enemy off the map with the skill, it also counts. And if she used 2 shots in succession and results in a kill with both of them, she gets 4 more ammo on the next reload. This is also stackable with the module base effect. For the push, it is unique that she can do it in a distance, but sometimes a bigger range is not the best for selecting the enemy you want to push. If they are in a crowd, then not even the sand beast can help you. Her specialty is pushing enemy behind her, but then she also gets the force -1 penalty, which is a bit sad. If you are trying to push some squishy enemy off the map, chances are that Ray will straight up kill them. Which leads us to damage. With this 450% attack scale, Ray's skill 1 with module already defeated Dorothy's skill 1 in terms of DPH. I think it's only second to Opiana's skill 3 at this point. This skill does not have attack multipliers, so she can benefit from the Spinach series relics in IS, or some extensive buffs to deal outrageous amount of damage, but overall, this skill remains niche and flashy, not as applicable as skill 3 in terms of total damage, cycling, and most importantly, the crowd control. Next, we have skill 2, passive effect of a skill. When Sandbeast retreats, recovers ammo that landed in its attack range. When activated, attack range expands, attack plus 120%, Sandbeast redeployment time minus 40%. This is a 0/16 attack recovery auto trigger skill with unlimited duration. The damage numbers are shown here. Again, the Sandbeast redeployment time is further reduced from 18 to 12 seconds with module, which is cool. For the range expansion, Ray actually gets 1 extra tile to both of her sides, so it goes wide instead of further forward. Let's talk about the skill design. The 16 SP requirement for warm-up is pretty obvious. You can drop Ray, deploy her Sandbeast, and have her empty all the ammo for ASP. Then you retreat to summon, scavenge all the ammo, and use them up again, and boom! That's the fastest way to charge up the skill. However, this is not the best way to use the skill. In this way, Sandbeast will still be in redeployment when the skill activates and does not immediately get the time reduction. And then we are going into the key problems of this skill. Hunters don't really have self-control over their ammo consumption, and these are the situations you are likely to run into when using this skill. 1. No ammo when you're about to deploy the Sandbeast. Over the 25-second duration, Ray can barely fit 8 attacks in a shoot, reload, shoot cycle. 2. You deploy Sandbeast, but there are just less enemy than you would like. Ray will start to reload a bit in between, and by the end of Sandbeast's duration, you're scavenging 8 ammo into a full ammo Ray, and all of them go to waste. Problem number 2, Sandbeast only scavenges ammo when retreated, but to provide damage increase, it needs to stay on the field, which is a little bit conflicting. In practice, you may get into this negative loophole. Ray has to pick up enemies when Sandbeast is in cooldown, and then by the time it's back, she's got no ammo left. You deploy the Sandbeast, and she painfully fill up its ammo meter in the shoot and reload and shoot cycle. Then you retreat Sandbeast to scavenge the ammo, and Ray takes 8 shots without the damage increase from Sandbeast. Rinse and repeat. So let's conclude the pros and cons. The skill comes with long and wide attack range that can cover multiple lanes, basically true silver /plus. The interaction with Sandbeast gives Ray the ability to manage her ammo, but that will require very frequent Sandbeast deploy and retreat, as well as thorough knowledge about the enemy pattern. In fact, this is a skill that Ray uses the most in solo clears, but that obviously is not the same as going in blind in daily contents. This skill is greatly improved by module because Ray would frequently hit 0 ammo, and to fill up Sandbeast's ammo meter, reloading 2 ammo every time cut away 4 reloads from the cycle, which is massive. Sandbeast also comes back extremely fast that give much more room of errors. A lot of Ray's solo records were after the release of her module. For cons, this is a labor-intensive skill that is very hard to time and manage well. Most importantly, for most players, it's just much more straightforward to use skill 3 in a team environment. If you use the skill blind, you will easily end up in the negative loophole that I just mentioned that really doesn't feel good. And in my opinion, having to make a choice between keeping the Sandbeast for more damage or retreating it for scavenging ammo feels like a compromise. Overall, not recommended for most players. Skill 3 immediately stops attacking until reloading to full ammo. Reload interval minus 1.2 seconds into just 0.4 seconds. Attack range expands, attack deals 330% of attack as physical damage and binds the target for 2 seconds. If an enemy is defeated during the skill, gains 10 SP after the skill ends. This is a 10/30 skill with 16-second duration. Basically, the SP requirement becomes 20 if Rei manages to defeat anyone during the skill. Rei deals a massive amount of damage with this skill. The minimum here is when she starts the skill with 0 ammo, and maximum is when she starts with full ammo. The expanded attack range is also shown here, basically the artillery range when they're still in E1. There are a lot to talk about for this skill, so buckle up. Let's start with breaking down the skill's mechanics. The amount of ammo Rei can fire within the skill is shown here in the table below. Most notably, if Rei starts with 0 ammo, she can take 8 shots. If she starts with full ammo, then she can take 10 shots. Like we said earlier, the skill does still benefit from attack speed, and this is the attack count for when she has 50 attack speed, which is the amount a photo can provide in IS-4. And as you can see, at this point the gain from module-based effect is more significant. Next, let's talk about the binding. On paper, the bind time from hitting a target is 2 seconds, while Rei's attack interval is 1.6 seconds. Even when she has to reload, 1.6 seconds plus the reload time of 0.4 seconds is still exactly 2 seconds, so theoretically Rei would be able to perma-bind a single target if she doesn't switch target in between. This is mostly true, but in practice, you will see her target move a few frames between the 8th and the 9th shot. To break it down, normally Rei has a startup animation of 9 frames, which is the time it takes for the bullet to start flying, and then 39 frames in recovery to fill up the whole 48 frames attack interval. But when she has to reload, which takes 13 frames, the next attack startup will take her 13 frames before the bullet starts flying. Instead, the recovery animation is cut down to 35 frames. What this causes is that between these two attacks, there is an interval of 39 plus 13 plus 13 equals to 65 frames, which is slightly more than the theoretical 2 seconds or 60 frames. And in Archetype, enemies do not move in the frame where they are free from binding, which is the 61st frame. And then they will move for a total of 4 frames between these 2 shots. But then for the next shot, the interval is now 35 plus 13 plus 13, which is 61 frames, so they won't be able to move again. Rei's skill 3 is the new height for single target damage for a couple of reasons. First, undoubtedly high DPH and DPS so that she can tackle high defense enemies and deal with them fast. It comes with short cycles, so Rei can spend less time in her off-skill auto attacks. In fact, it's because this skill is so good, it doesn't matter anymore what Rei would be doing off-skill, just wait for 20 seconds for it to come back and we're all set. She covers a very big range with help from the Sand Beast. The expansion with this skill provides a lot of options for the Sand Beast's deployment, making it easier to prioritize targets from a safe distance. You can also opt to position Rei where her attack range is limited, so that she doesn't waste ammo on unwanted targets on and off skill. And finally, pinning a target in place for the whole duration is a really good addition. It makes sure that once they step in, they're not getting out, which guarantees full damage and they don't get close enough to Rei to harm her. Next, we have this series of graphs that compares some of the single target snipers including Rei, Typhon, Pasiamka, and Exia. These are all skill 3s. You can pause and read the graphs if you like. I'm gonna briefly touch on their respective advantages. For Rei, she's got the DPH that's way above everyone else. With her short cycle design, she also gets a high skill DPS. Her single target bind makes sure that she can pull off the full damage potential. She can brute force her way through high defense enemies without any defense ignore. Typhon is pretty similar to Rei in terms of striking from a distance, but her damage is less guaranteed because nearby targets can take away some of the attacks with skill 3. In theory, against high defense enemies, she's the last to fall due to the 60% defense ignore, but at the point where Rei can't handle with her DPH, I don't think physical damage would be the best option. Pasiamka has the highest damage potential, but she's also the one that's least likely to achieve it due to the restriction of having the enemy line up right in front of her, as well as the typewriter next to her. Her short-handed range has also proved fatal for her effectiveness in IS-4. Exia's advantage, obviously, is her super high DPS against enemies she can manage. Yes, she falls to defense extremely fast, but like always, you can buff her to raise the bar. So after this review of single target snipers, it's not hard to find out that Rei really is a well-rounded operator that isn't necessarily much worse off facing the advantages of previous operators, but also have features in her kit that filled in the shortcomings of those older operators. So here are a few tips and tricks for you, the doctor, to better use this skill. First thing to remember, you need to prevent Rei from switching targets as much as possible. Think about it, she attacks 10 times during the skill, so one less attack is more than 10% damage loss, because not only did Rei hit less, she also had to restack her talent too. This is especially important when you use her to take down bosses. Switching target is very punishing for Rei. Here I'm gonna introduce a trick which I like to call the Sandbeast backstab. Think of it as if Rei only has the Sandbeast attack range. Deploy the Sandbeast when the target is on the edge of its range. Because they are the target closest to leaving the range, Rei will focus fire on them. This is of course less effective when the key target is wandering around and has a longer path than other enemies in the area. So all you can do is to plan Rei's positioning accordingly for the best place to lock him down. There's also the reminder to start her skill with full ammo whenever possible, because starting with less ammo means 1 or 2 less hits overall, and sometimes enemies get away when Rei is reloading to full ammo, which can take up to 3.2 seconds. Finally, remember to retreat the Sandbeast after the skill, otherwise gradually the cooldown for skill 3 and Sandbeast will go completely misaligned, and that's also a lot of damage missing. Last thing about skill 3 is that it is again a very good buff candidate similar to Exia's skill 3. Short cycles, 60-second duration that goes with Wolverine's skill 2 pretty well. Rei has the advantage of massive DPH and manual trigger that makes it easier to time. Wolverine can increase the total damage of skill 3 by 65.2%, with each shot being devastating. This combo is commonly used in IS because Rei and Wolverine are both in the Sniper Medic squad, so it is easy to get the duel. And Wolverine can also buff Dagenbrecher, which we discussed last time, depending on the situation. So, in hindsight, Rei is a dedicated single target damage dealer with skill 3 as her main skill. It's got high DPH, low attack count, but fast cycle. So despite Hunter's awkward attack pattern, this skill is still easy and practical to use. You don't need to worry about their reload as much, and it comes back fast enough so that what she's doing off skill doesn't matter as much. It works with attack buffs very well. Sandbeast plus the range expansion and skills to lengthen or broaden her range is a really game-changing design that adds to the depth of using her. Her unique ability to bind her target for the full damage is her key to securing a spot in harder contents. And her performance in future events prove that. She's arguably the #1 pick for IS-4 snipers after expansion 2, before Citadel. Maybe Typhon with the Hands of Outburst relic still competes with her, but one big reason for using her is that she's the most viable physical damage dealer for dealing with the ending 4 Khan boss, which has 6,250 defense in difficulty 15. But with relics and buffs, Rei can still deal good damage to him. She's also an irreplaceable member within the top risk roster for CCP Underdawn. Reasons she was there are as followed: high DPH so that her damage is still effective under the halved-off attack. Her single target bind and the long attack range makes her the best solution to the Seaborn Christmas tree enemy. If they walk onto the Nether brand, they gain 600 defense, and if they move further, they destroy everyone else. But Rei was able to bind it in the portal where there's no Nether brand and kill them at the spot. Same goes for the Seaborn Slapper, who only gets invisibility on the Nether brand. To conclude, Rei is a 6-star hunter that managed to somewhat trivialize some of the Archetype's commonly accused problems by putting the focus on her short cycle burst skill. which is accompanied by a summon mechanics that help her extend strike range and prioritize target, making her accessible by more players. For daily, my rating is 5. Her damage should be able to crunch through almost all daily enemies with no problem. A fast cycle with skill 3 increases her usability by most players as well. But like the case for all hunters, she doesn't bring much impact off skill, especially when out of ammo. She's weak against enemy hordes and suffers a lot from switching targets in skill 3. Just overall not very reliable for going in blind. For advanced content, I rate her at 7. Like we analyzed with IS and CC just now, she's less impacted by attack debuffs or enemy defense buffs. She can literally brute force her way through high defense. If not, then try again with attack buffs. Her single target bind, plus her range and the Sand Beast guarantees her full damage and safe output. Her weaknesses, other than single target, also lies in her susceptibility to attack speed debuffs, where not only does she lose a lot of total damage, but the perma bind is also no longer guaranteed with a longer attack interval. Starting from this episode, I will be retiring the pull recommendation graph that we had, because I feel like there were a lot of considerations going on, for example, gameplay elements, future schedule, and meta factors, but they aren't clearly reflected and explained in the graph. And when taken out of context, it ended up being more like a power ranking, which wasn't what I wanted. So instead, I'm making this new section called Pull Analysis, where I will list bullet points for and against pulling the operator. You can then, based on your own situations, consider whether or not to pull. For gameplay elements, Rei is still the ceiling of single target snipers with high damage quality, unique range, and single target CC to guarantee damage and a safe output. She has unique mechanics that's interesting to play around, so for veteran players who want to try out new mechanics, this may be your choice. She also has solid performance in advanced contents like IS, CC, Niche Knights, and low ops runs. For cons, Rei feels awful to play as Yi0 and Yi1, where she has a lower ammo capacity. Her kit with Sand Beast and short cycle skill is labor intensive and not AFK friendly at all. And she as a hunter is hard to master and use, especially so when you're going blind. This is definitely not a priority for new players who still lack versatile damage dealers or players that prefer easy and hands-free solutions. For considerations about future events and meta, first of all, Rei will never get another solo radar banner as a mini-story operator. In future events, she's the easiest physical solution to the ending 4 Khan boss if you don't have KOB with Module's belt. She's also necessary in high risk for CCB Underdawn if you're interested in those. For cons, obviously we have 2 back-to-back limited banners coming up with Shu and Ella. Rei's impact on the game is also partly influenced by Ella and Visidel in the future, especially Visidel, who competes for first pick with sniper vouchers in IS. But thankfully, her DPH and short cycle burst still keeps her in the game. That's basically it for this episode. After spending some more time using Ella and discussing with others, I'm making a pretty big change to Ella's impact. Gotta admit that I didn't play with the character enough until the recent month, but this should be early enough to update the information. I also did not include Nymph in the rating preview because she's a bit more complicated to rate considering the nature of primal casters, and I want to wait and see what we have in IS5 to perhaps bring some extra adjustments to the table. She should be here by the time Global gets Shu. Thank you for watching the video. The global schedule is honestly killing me right now, and it's a lot of stress. This video has taken a ton of time, so please consider subscribing and leaving a like. That will help me out a lot. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.